The Canadian dream is over as more and more people, Canadians and immigrants, leave the country and look for the door. So let's get into what is going on, because this is literally happening. Immigrants are leaving Canada at faster pace, study shows. Newcomers facing high housing costs, underemployment, onward migration, existential threat to prosperity, says advocate. So let's see what they're saying here. So new research suggests more newcomers to Canada have chosen to leave in recent years, a threat to a country that relies on immigration to drive population and economic growth. And think about where economic growth is right now, guys. I mean, just look at this GDP data. We're essentially in a recession. This is manipulated data, but we are in a recession. If you were to adjust this to a more accurate CPI instead of the CPI, we would be deep in a recession right now. You've got the unemployment rate that is going up, largely driven by the population increases that are happening. And with all that going on, you've got productivity falling. This is pretty much a toxic combination, along with debt levels increasing. So it's just an absolute disaster what Canada has done. It is an epic fail, and just goes to show how just because you are able to get loads of people to your country doesn't mean that you're able to find jobs for them, create jobs for them, create any prosperity for them. It's just utterly ludicrous. But a lot of people have the perspective from outside of this country that, oh, if I just go to a Western country like Canada, I'm going to earn more money, I'm going to have a better life. And then they get here and they realize their standard of living is actually much lower than it was in the country that they're coming from. It's kind of crazy. And that's why a lot of people are moving away. So we'll get into those exact stories as we go on in this video. So stick with me here. So the rate of immigrants leaving the country, or onward migration, has been steadily increasing since the 1980s and is rising among recent cohorts, suggesting newcomers may not be seeing the benefits of moving to Canada, according to a study on immigrant retention. So let's see what that report said. So the report, published Tuesday, underscored the risks of Canada failing to meet expectations of newcomers who are facing worsening housing affordability, a strained healthcare system, and underemployment, among other issues. It also highlighted how disillusionment among immigrants can slow down progress even in a country that consistently sets fresh records for population gains. I mean, I just don't get it, because just importing more and more people with less and less skills does not make you a better country. In fact, what happens is you start to import third world problems. And that's what you're beginning to see in Canada. In fact, you're beginning to see a lot of third world country type issues emerging now in Canada, because the country cannot cope. It cannot cope with the amount of immigrants it is taking in. The system is totally broken and skewed towards those with lower skilled versus those with higher skills, and it's just an absolutely ridiculous system as an immigrant who's been through that system and just seen how broken it really is with my own eyes. So it's kind of crazy. And then you've also got this happening. So international student applications, even from coming from India, Indian students are less interested in attending Canadian schools. You can see how this is dropping off now, and it's not just seasonality, because these are totally different times. And you know, if you look at this as well and listen to some of the stories from these immigrants, kind of crazy. You'll begin to understand it's just the same things we're just hearing time and time again. Amid a crunch on affordable housing. Affordable housing comes up almost constantly in this. Cost of living, affordable housing, those are the main things. Have you noticed that? The thing is, Canada is at a complete dead end when it comes to the housing market. It has a massive housing bubble right now. And sure, I'm sure there are ways the government could invent to try and inflate that higher. But then what is that going to do to things like immigration, to things like homelessness? I think the problems will be far worse for the majority of people if housing prices continue to go up than actually come down drastically from here, which shows how ridiculously out of balance the economy is in Canada. And not only that, you've had business investment that has been sucked up by the Canadian housing bubble. You've had a lot of malinvestment because of the Canadian housing bubble. And all that does does is that detracts from going into actual new business creation that can compete with all the oligarchies that we have in Canada, because everything's an oligarchy. Whether you're taking a flight, going to the grocery store, going to the pharmacy, it doesn't matter. You have a very limited selection of companies that you can go to, and that means prices are very high. It's the same when it comes to supply chains, how the goods are actually delivered. Very few players out there, and that means they keep the prices inflated. So even if you're a small business, it's very, very tough to compete with that. So it's kind of crazy what is going on. But the housing market, I just think people should look at this and think this is really the death nail for the housing bubble and the housing market. Because when you get to this, just think about how bad things will get if actually housing prices continue to go up from here. So this guy says, I have applied for approximately 2,000 jobs in Toronto, but have only received one interview, he told CTV News in an email. The high cost of living, particularly the soaring grocery prices combined with the current inflation, has made it incredibly difficult to make ends meet. So this guy claims he's applied for 2,000 jobs in Toronto. Just think about that. How great must the labor market be? And Toronto is the place that most immigrants go, not by choice, because they can get a job there, because it's the most accepting when it comes to taking on immigrant workers. And that is the truth. I've lived in Toronto myself and I've seen it myself. And that is why most people go there. It's not because they want to go there, because Toronto is a shithole. I would not want to live in Toronto. Living in Toronto is like hell for us. A lot of people have to do it. And I can't imagine trying to do it now. It's just an absolute nightmare. It must be like literally living in a nightmare for these people. So I really feel for them. And obviously they've been sold this dream, which is just complete bullshit. This other guy who's originally from Bangladesh has been in Canada since 2011, where he moved here for school at 18 years old. He excelled at the University of Alberta and received several academic scholarships. Upon graduating, he landed a job with Amazon in Vancouver. However, Canada no longer holds the same appeal it once did, and he's preparing to move south, where he believes he will earn more and enjoy more spending power. And this is the thing that Canadians, a lot of Canadians, don't understand, is there is a huge brain drain right now. Even though you're inviting all these low-skilled workers over right now, making the competition for jobs at Walmart, there's like 700 people or more applying for a job at Walmart, where you've got engineering jobs that can't be filled because all those people are going, hey, I'm just going to go to the United States. I mean, I spoke to a pilot a couple of months ago and he was saying how so many of the pilots are just going to the US, because why wouldn't they? Their job, their skill set is needed down there. They're going to get paid more, so they just go down there. And there are even companies that have been set up specifically to help pilots, and I'm sure for other industries as well, like healthcare, where they want these workers and they know that people in Canada are just depressed. They're struggling to make ends meet. The high cost of living is really taking its toll on people. And then you just couple that with the prospect of having nice weather as well, all times of the year. I mean, if you live in a place like Alberta, you know how much nice weather really means to you, because the winters here last 8 months. It's just cold all the time, and the summer lasts, a couple of months, and it's just smoke constantly. So you just never seem to be able to win. So I don't blame him. And it's not just him, but you're seeing this time and time again when it comes to skilled workers, and this is causing a massive brain drain for Canada. And then somebody else said, we feel extremely let down by the Canadian dream. What we found is a withering, uncertain, and anti-working class government, happy to sell promises it never intended on keeping. And doesn't that just ring true? That is exactly the Trudeau government. That is Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau all over, Jagmeet Singh as well. Throw him in there because he's essentially been partnering them for the longest period of time, blocking a general election. But you know what really pisses me off the most is the fact that this government wasn't elected. Nobody elected this minority government to go partner with the NDP, to go partner with the Bloc. Who voted for that? Tell me who voted for that. Nobody voted for that. That's the thing. We live in this quote unquote democracy, right? When you really think about it, it's not so much of a democracy when you've got an unelected government who is partnering with other parts of the government that you never intended to be collaborating and working together to pass things like censorship bills, to pass increases in the carbon tax, all these different things that nobody voted for. And because everybody is just so caught up trying to live live, essentially, just trying to make ends meet. As we discussed on that RBC poll the other day, we know that people are just caught up. They don't have time to deal with politics or worry about protesting or anything like that. They're too caught up in their own lives, and I don't blame them for that. So it's just kind of crazy, all these stories that you hear, and I'll leave this link in the description as I always do, so you can check it out yourself, read the full thing. There's lots of stories in there that I'm sure people would like to read. Record spike in number of immigrants leaving Canada in recent years, study says. Abnormally high numbers of immigrants granted permanent residence between 1982 and 2018 left between 2016 and 2019. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting this to you is because why would you think that they're leaving? They're leaving, obviously, because they were coming here when times were better, when there was a Canadian dream, when you could afford a home, where your home was like probably 2 times your income, whereas now it's like 8 times median household income, and that's household income. You know, back in the 70s and the 60s, they were qualifying people based on 1 income. They wouldn't even use 2. It would be based on a single income. You can guess what happened when they included 2. Everything went up in price. It's just kind of crazy. And the reason why I want to bring this up is not just because I'm an immigrant. It's because I will be leaving this country as well. Because the thing is, I see no future for me in this country. The aspirations I have and the things that I want to achieve, the businesses that I want to create, I can't do it here in Canada where the expenses are so high. I mean, you guys probably don't know this, but I work incredibly hard behind the scenes. YouTube is not my job. YouTube is just something I do because I have a massive passion for it. And I believe people need to see this type of content, which is a person's unbiased perspective on things and is essentially independent media. We need to have these things because the financial media is always distorting things, the mainstream media and the government is always distorting things, and they have their own interests too. It's kind of crazy what's going on, guys. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, you might like this video here, you might like this playlist here. If you're looking for a VPN to get around Bill C11, I got the best offer for you at expressvpn.com/marketmania. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks for all your support. Bye-bye.